The wind whipped across the open field, carrying the sound of laughter and sizzling barbecue. Children ran between picnic tables, and old country music hummed from a portable speaker. For most, it was a day of joy, a long-awaited family reunion. But for Daniel Reed, it was a day of silent anxiety. He hadn't been to one of these in years, not since returning home from deployment. The Army veteran, now a single father, stood off to the side with a paper plate in his hand, pretending to enjoy the food. His daughter, Lily, was 8, bright, fearless, and the only reason he kept moving forward. She was across the field, chasing bubbles with her cousins, her laughter echoing like sunlight through clouds. But Daniel? He still carried the storm inside. War had taken more than just years of his life. It had taken his wife not to combat, but to the loneliness that followed. She couldn't handle the silence he brought home, the nights he'd wake up sweating, gasping for breath, haunted by explosions that only he could hear. 2 years after his discharge, she left, leaving Lily behind. He'd promised himself he wouldn't fail again. As he scanned the field, Daniel's eyes caught something strange near the edge of the lake that bordered the property, a figure standing too close to the water. A woman. Alone. Her posture was off, shaky, hesitant, almost desperate. He frowned. Nobody from his family was over there. Instinct kicked in. He set down his plate and began walking, then jogging. "Hey," he called out, his voice steady but urgent. The woman didn't respond. She took another step forward, the soft earth beneath her feet gave way, and in an instant, she slipped into the water. Daniel's heart lurched. Without thinking, he ran. His boots pounded against the ground, and before his brain could catch up, he was in the lake, cold water shocking his body as he dove under. The woman was sinking fast, her arms flailing weakly before disappearing below the surface. He reached out, grabbed hold of her wrist, and pulled with everything he had. It wasn't the first time he'd pulled someone out of danger, but it felt heavier this time. Breaking through the surface, he dragged her toward the shore, coughing and shivering. Family members were shouting now, rushing over. Daniel laid her on the ground, pressing on her chest, forcing air into her lungs. For a few seconds, there was nothing, and then she gasped, choking, eyes fluttering open. "You're okay," he said softly, his voice trembling. "You're safe now." Her eyes met his, deep brown, full of confusion and something else, sorrow. I'm sorry," she whispered hoarsely. "I didn't mean to." But before she could finish, she broke into tears. Paramedics arrived a few minutes later, someone had called 911. They checked her vitals, asked questions, but the woman kept shaking her head, refusing to say much. When they offered to take her to the hospital, she hesitated. "I don't have anyone," she murmured. Daniel stepped forward. "I'll go with her." He didn't know why he said it, maybe because he recognized that hollow look in her eyes. It was the same one he used to see in the mirror. At the hospital, she sat quietly on the bed, wrapped in a blanket. Daniel stood by the door, unsure if he should speak. Finally, she broke the silence. "You didn't have to save me." "Yeah," he said. "But I did." Her lips trembled. "I wasn't trying to die. I didn't know what I was doing anymore." He nodded slowly. "That's usually how it starts." She looked up, startled. He sighed. "I know the feeling. You start walking towards something you don't really understand, just trying to quiet the noise in your head. But you're lucky. Not everyone gets a second chance." Tears filled her eyes again. "Why did you help me?" "Because someone once helped me," he said simply. There was silence for a moment. "My name's Emily," she said softly. "Daniel." "Thank you, Daniel." He gave a small smile. Just doing what anyone would do. But he knew that wasn't true. Most people wouldn't have noticed. Most people didn't. Over the next few days, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about Emily. He found out she was new in town, recently laid off, and living alone in a small apartment not far from the park. Life hadn't been kind to her either. Her husband had died in an accident 2 years earlier, and she'd been drifting ever since. When Daniel invited her to visit his workshop, a small garage where he repaired furniture and metalwork for extra income, she hesitated, but eventually agreed. There, surrounded by the smell of sawdust and oil, they began to talk. Not about their pain, not at first, but about little things. Music. Books. The small joys that keep a person alive even when they don't realize it. Lily, curious as ever, took an immediate liking to her. "Daddy, is Miss Emily your friend?" she'd asked one afternoon. Daniel chuckled. "Yeah, sweetheart. She's a friend." But it was more than that. Emily had started helping him with his orders, organizing, cleaning, even sanding wood. She smiled more these days, though sometimes, when she thought no one was looking, Daniel would catch that same shadow flicker across her face. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Daniel found her sitting outside, staring at the stars. "You ever think about how everything we've been through leads us right to where we are?" she asked. He nodded. "All the time. I keep wondering what the point of it all is," she said quietly. "Losing people. Hurting. Starting over." Daniel looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "Maybe the point isn't to understand it. Maybe it's to survive it so we can help someone else do the same." Her eyes glistened. "You really believe that?" He smiled faintly. "I have to. Otherwise, all of this, the war, the pain, it'd mean nothing." Emily reached over and took his hand. "It means something now." He froze, not because of the touch, but because of what she said next. "I wasn't supposed to be at that reunion," she said. "I was driving home from the bus station, just passing by when I saw the sign and stopped. I thought, maybe I'd sit by the water for a bit. Clear my head." He frowned. "So you didn't know anyone there?" She shook her head. "No. At least, I didn't think I did." "What do you mean?" She looked down, her voice trembling. "My mother was adopted. She never met her real family. A few months before she died, she told me she'd been born in this town, to someone named Margaret Reed." Daniel's heart stopped. "My grandmother's name was Margaret Reed," he whispered. Emily's eyes widened. "Then that means..." He exhaled, almost in disbelief. "You're my cousin." The realization hit both of them at once, not with shock, but with a strange, overwhelming sense of fate. The woman he'd rescued, the stranger he thought he'd simply saved, was family. The next family reunion was different. Emily stood beside Daniel and Lily, laughter returning to her voice. She was no longer the woman by the lake, she was part of something again. The family embraced her warmly, and Daniel watched as Lily tugged on Emily's hand, showing her around. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned golden, Daniel stood by the same lake where it all began. Emily joined him, holding 2 cups of lemonade. "You ever think about how strange life is?" she asked. "All the time," he said with a smile. "But I've learned something lately." "What's that?" "That sometimes, the people we're meant to save, are the ones who end up saving us." Emily looked at him, eyes soft. "You've already done that for me." He shook his head. "No, Emily. You helped me remember what family means." As laughter echoed behind them and fireflies danced over the water, Daniel realized that, for the first time in years, the storm inside him had quieted. Not because the pain was gone, but because he finally understood what it was for. Sometimes, life breaks us apart just so we can put each other back together again. And that night, under the soft glow of a summer sky, 2 broken souls found the pieces they didn't even know they were missing right there, at the edge of the water.